The scent of vanilla and sugar hung thick in the bakery air, sweet enough to almost blur the ache in Sam Keller's chest. Almost. He crouched beside his daughter, one knee on the black and white tile floor, while her small finger pressed to the glass. That one, Millie said, her voice barely more than a whisper. The one with strawberries and the fluffy white frosting. It looks like clouds. Sam followed her gaze to the cake. 3 layers real fruit tucked into the sides, piped cream around the edges like lace. A tiny pink sugar crown on top. Price tag $39.50. He checked his wallet again, though he already knew. $11. 4 wrinkled bills and a few coins. That's a lot of cake, kiddo, he said, gently trying to smile. Maybe we find one a little less fancy. But you said I could pick? Millie replied, eyes wide and still hopeful. You said it's my special day, Daddy. He felt his throat close. 5 years old today. 5 years since her first cry in a hospital room that had also gone silent in the worst way. 5 years of holding it together with duct tape and late hours under the hood of rusting cars. And now he couldn't even give her a birthday cake. I know I did, sweetheart, his voice cracked. But we don't have the money, Princess. She blinked at him. Her expression shifted not to tears, not to anger, just to quiet understanding far too old for her age. Oh, she said. Just that. 1 syllable. Then she took his hand. We can make one at home, like last year. Something in him fractured. Behind them, the bakery bell jingled again. Sam stood quickly, lifting Millie's hand in his, trying to shield her from any embarrassment. Not that anyone was paying attention. It was just another afternoon in downtown Asheville, tourists sipping lattes, college kids crowding the sidewalk, wealthy retirees dressed in cashmere, even in North Carolina's mild December chill. Except one woman was watching. She stood several feet behind them, her posture straight, her gray wool coat hanging like it had been tailored to her breath. Rosalie Bennett. The woman who made headlines without trying. Billionaire, philanthropist, heiress to the Bennett land and housing empire. Asheville's most carefully polished gem. No one ever saw her in this part of town, especially not in a bakery that had peeling paint on the window trim. Excuse me, she said, her voice warm and level. Is the cake still available? The clerk behind the counter blinked. Yes, ma'am. Do you want me to box it? Rosalie nodded. And 2 chocolate eclairs from the bottom shelf, please. Sam turned, confused. Ma'am, she cut him off gently. It's not for you, it's for her. She smiled at Millie. You said it's your birthday, right? Millie looked up at Sam, unsure. He cleared his throat, already feeling the burn in his chest. We appreciate it, but that's not necessary. It's already done, Rosalie replied. She handed over a sleek black credit card. Sam had never seen one in real life. He hated how heavy that card looked in the clerk's hands. He hated how light his own wallet suddenly felt. I'll pay you back, he said, trying to keep his voice steady. That won't be necessary. I insist. Rosalie turned her face unreadable. Then consider it a loan. But the cake belongs to her, not you. She shouldn't have to compromise on her birthday. Millie tugged Sam's sleeve. Can I say thank you? He hesitated, then nodded. Millie stepped forward and wrapped her small arms around Rosalie's waist. Thank you, Cake Fairy. Rosalie froze, something unreadable flashing across her features. Then slowly she smiled. A real smile. Not the kind she gave for press photos or gala speeches. It was quiet, worn at the edges like it had taken years to resurface. You're very welcome, she whispered. The box was handed over, carefully packed with ribbons and tissue paper that probably cost more than what Sam made in an hour. He took it like it weighed 100 pounds. Outside, the air was sharp, and the clouds hung low. Christmas lights twinkled half-heartedly on the lampposts. Millie skipped ahead, humming a made-up song about strawberries and frosting. Sam trailed behind the box, tight against his chest, his pride dragging behind him like an open wound. 3 blocks later, he stopped walking. "Hold up, kiddo." Millie turned. "Did I do something wrong?" "No." He crouched and hugged her. "You did everything perfect." Then he pulled out his phone. His fingers trembled. He opened a browser and searched for Bennett Foundation Asheville. It didn't take long. There she was, Rosalie Bennett, CEO, press photos, donor galas, groundbreaking ceremonies, a life polished down to press releases and perfect posture. He stared at the image of her in front of a luxury housing tower she'd funded. The same woman who just bought his daughter a birthday cake without a flicker of judgment in her eyes. He tapped the screen and saved the foundation's address. Later that night, after Millie had opened her handful of gifts, second-hand books, and a knit scarf from her aunt, Sam sat at the kitchen table. The box from the bakery sat empty, frosting smudged along the edge. The cake had been perfect. Light sweet, the kind of thing you remember for years. He pulled out the envelope where he kept his emergency cash. $11 left. He placed it inside a smaller envelope, then tore off a scrap of paper from a notepad. "First payment. I don't take handouts." S. Keller. He sealed it shut. Across town, in a home with more rooms than residents, Rosalie Bennett stared out her window. Her phone buzzed, but she let it ring. Somewhere in the quiet, her eyes drifted shut and she whispered to herself, "Cake Fairy, that's new." She didn't smile this time. Instead, she turned from the window and walked down a hallway lined with family portraits she no longer looked at. And far from the glow of chandeliers and catered meals, a father sat beside a used birthday candle, trying to figure out how to repay a billionaire for reminding his daughter that magic still existed. And that maybe it still existed for him too. If you enjoyed this video, comment 1 to let me know. If not, comment 2. Your thought matter to me either way. The kitchen smelled like cinnamon and wax. A single birthday candle flickered in the center of a plate, where the last slice of cake sat barely touched. Sam leaned against the counter, arms crossed, watching Millie play with a ribbon from the bakery box. She'd tied it around her wrist like a bracelet, humming quietly to herself. Joanne swept through the front door without knocking, holding 2 small gift bags and a tray covered in foil. "You better not have fed her dinner before cake. We had grilled cheese," Sam muttered. "Didn't want to wait." Joanne narrowed her eyes, but her voice softened as she stepped further in. "You're lucky you've got that face, and that daughter." She crouched, opening her arms. "Birthday girl, come, give Aunt Jo a hug." Millie ran into her arms, giggling. "Daddy got me the cake with strawberries, and a fancy lady paid for it, but he said we're paying her back." Sam exhaled slowly. "Here it comes." Joanne stood, raising an eyebrow. "A fancy lady, huh? She had shiny boots, and she talked like the mayor on TV." "Oh, really?" Joanne turned toward Sam. "Do you want to explain that one?" He pushed off the counter. "It's not what you think. I didn't say anything yet, because you're waiting to get the full story before you light me up." Joanne smirked, but there was warmth under it. "I've known you 30 years, Sam. You're the one lighting yourself up. Now talk." He grabbed the envelope from the table, the one with the $11, and the note, and handed it to her. She paid for the cake, didn't ask, just did it. "I'm delivering this to her office tomorrow." Joanne took the envelope carefully. "How much did she pay?" Cake was $39.50, plus 2 eclairs Millie asked for. She didn't even blink. "You sure it wasn't a charity moment I don't know?" He paused. "I don't think so." She didn't talk to me like I was a case. She talked to Millie. Joanne walked over to the cake box and looked inside. "This is from Valerie's Bakery. Haven't been there in years." She took a slow breath. "Do you know who she is?" "Rosalie Bennett," he said. I looked her up. Joanne turned around. You mean that Bennett? The one who funded the Unity Heights project bought that old church lot downtown? Yeah. Joanne stared at him. Sam. I know. She bought your daughter a birthday cake. I know. The room fell silent except for the ticking of the wall clock. Joanne placed the envelope back on the table. She'll never cash it, she said. People like her, they forget the moment after it happens. Sam didn't respond. You're not a project, Sam. I don't feel like one, he said quietly. Not from her. Joanne's eyes softened. She stepped closer, lowering her voice. You think it meant something? He hesitated. She smiled at Millie like she hadn't done that in a long time. Joanne leaned against the table and crossed her arms. Sam, be careful. I'm not chasing her. I want to repay her. Joanne looked at him for a long time. Fine. Deliver your envelope. But that's it. Don't get caught in some story that doesn't belong to you. Later that night, when the house was quiet, and Millie was tucked beneath her worn pink blanket, Sam sat in the living room holding the bakery ribbon in one hand and the envelope in the other. He thought about Rosalie. Her calm voice, the way she looked at Millie like the child had surprised her. He thought about the empty look behind her eyes before the smile appeared. The next morning he woke early, dropped Millie at Joanne's and drove across town navigating through downtown Asheville's winding streets until he found it the Bennett Foundation, a restored brick building with polished windows and a discreet silver plaque. The woman at the front desk had a headset and perfect posture. Can I help you, sir? I'm here to leave something for Ms. Bennett. Do you have an appointment? No, I'm just delivering this. He handed her the envelope. She glanced at it, then him, and paused. You're Mr. Keller. Sam Keller. I'll make sure it gets to her. Please, he said. It's important. Back in her glass office on the 5th floor, Rosalie stared at her calendar without seeing it. Her assistant Hannah walked in holding the envelope. A man dropped this off, said it was important. Rosalie raised an eyebrow, then reached for it. She unfolded the note first. First payment. I don't take handouts. S. Keller. Then she opened the envelope, $11, folded carefully like it had been pressed between books, ones and a 5 edges softened from pockets and time. Rosalie froze. She held the paper in both hands for a moment before setting it down. Who was he? She asked softly. Tall. Work clothes. Said his name was Keller. No other info. Did he ask for anything? No. Just handed it over and left. Rosalie leaned back in her chair, staring out the window at the street below. He meant it. I think so, Hannah said. He looked nervous, not desperate, just determined. Rosalie didn't answer. Do you want me to look into him? There was a long pause. Rosalie tapped her finger once on the arm of her chair. Then she whispered, Not yet. Later that evening, Hannah caught her boss standing by the floor-to-ceiling window again, still holding the envelope. You okay? Rosalie nodded. When I was a kid, she said, her voice quiet. My father used to say that integrity was when no one else sees what you do, and you still do the right thing anyway. She looked down at the bills again. I think I just met someone who lives that. Hannah smiled gently. You sure you're not going to look him up? Rosalie didn't move. I'm sure. But she didn't drop the envelope either. That night, as Asheville wound down into a soft winter hush, 2 people lay in separate homes, one on worn sheets, the other on high thread count linen, and stared at the same ceiling, thinking about a moment in a bakery neither of them could forget. And somewhere in between the silence and the ticking clocks, something began. Something small, unnamed, quiet as a promise. A fog rolled over Asheville the next morning, softening the city in muted grays and pale golds. Rosalie Bennett stepped out of her car and paused before entering the Bennett Foundation building. She rarely walked through the front doors. Her usual route was the executive garage. But today, something in her needed the full view of the city waking up around her. She clutched the envelope in her bag, like it might disappear if she let go. Inside her office, Hannah was already reviewing the day's schedule, voice smooth and familiar. "You've got a 9:30 call with Landon Park about the Charlotte project, then the nonprofit board at noon, and your mother left 3 messages. Rosalie didn't look up. "I'll call her later. She said she's stopping by in person." Now she looked up. Of course she is. Hannah studied her for a beat, then tilted her head. "You didn't sleep." "I did." "A lie." "You're still thinking about him." Silence. Then Rosalie opened her bag, pulled out the envelope, and set it gently on her desk. "I've been given $1,000,000 donations that meant less than this." Hannah's expression softened. "So, what are you going to do about it? I don't know. You could go say thank you. He doesn't want to thank you." That note was clear. "Then maybe go buy something that's broken and ask him to fix it." Hannah smirked. Rich girl needs her alternator looked at. "Very damsel in distress. I'm not looking for trouble." "Rosalie, come on. You haven't even breathed since I know. You need something real." Rosalie stared out the window again. "I need something different." Hannah walked to the door, paused. "There's an oil change light on in my car. Want to borrow it?" Rosalie raised an eyebrow. "Are you matchmaking me with a mechanic? I'm matchmaking you with a human being who gave everything he had to repay a $40 cake. You could do worse." A long pause. Then, quietly, Rosalie said, "Text me the garage name." Across town, the hum of impact wrenches and country radio buzzed under the tin roof of Brooks Auto Service. Sam wiped his hands on a rag and stepped out from under the raised hood of a '98 Camry that looked like it barely had another winter in it. "You good on that one?" Deshawn called from the back office. "Good enough to get her through the holidays," Sam said. The bell above the front door jingled. He didn't look up at first, just tossed the rag onto the bench and turned towards the counter. Then he froze. Rosalie stood in the doorway, wrapped in that same gray coat, her hair loose today, curls brushed soft around her shoulders. She looked out of place and completely grounded all at once. "I think there's a rattle in my car," she said simply. Sam blinked. "Seriously?" she shrugged. "Unless that's not something you fix here." Deshawn poked his head around the corner, eyebrows climbing. "You need me, Sam?" "No," Sam said quickly, still watching Rosalie. "I got this." He grabbed a clipboard, gestured toward the bay. "Bring it around. I'll take a listen." Outside, Rosalie opened the car door and paused as she slipped behind the wheel. Her hands trembled a little. She didn't understand why. She wasn't nervous. She was never nervous. But something about the way Sam had looked at her equal parts, surprised, cautious and curious, made her feel like she'd stepped into a story without a script. She pulled the car into the garage. Sam motioned her to park and opened the hood. "You came all this way for a rattle. I was in the neighborhood," she said, not even trying to make it sound true. He glanced at her, expression unreadable. "You know I can't let you pay me back. I'm not here to repay anything," she said. "I'm here because my car makes a noise, and because I wanted to see if you got the envelope." "I got it." And Sam closed the hood gently, "And I respect it." They stood in silence for a moment, the garage noise blurred behind them. Then Rosalie broke the quiet. "You didn't have to do that. I did." He looked at her fully now. "Because I wanted you to know. It mattered. What you did." She nodded slowly. "It mattered to me too." Sam motioned toward the small waiting area. "You want coffee? It's not fancy, but it's hot." "Sure." Inside, she sat on a cracked vinyl chair while he poured from a metal carafe and handed her a mismatched mug. "I was half expecting you not to show," he said. "I almost didn't." "Why did you?" Rosalie stared at the steam rising from her cup. "Because I haven't stopped thinking about the way your daughter looked at that cake. Like it was magic. And I realized I haven't felt that in a long time." Sam sat across from her. "You live in a world full of magic." She gave a small laugh. "No. I live in a world full of obligations dressed as opportunity, appearances, legacy, things that look golden, but feel hollow." He studied her for a long beat. "That sounds lonely." She looked up. "It is." Another moment passed. Sam stood and walked to the door of the garage, then turned. "You want me to check the car now?" "You don't have to pretend there's something wrong. No pretending. I'll find something. Even if it's just a loose screw." She smiled, really smiled this time. "Then I guess I'll wait." As he returned to the garage, Rosalie sat back in the old chair and closed her eyes for a moment. The scent of oil and coffee mixed with cold air drifting in from the open bay doors. And for the first time in weeks, she felt her shoulders lower. Her heart ease. Something was happening here. Something she couldn't name. But it was real. And she wasn't ready to walk away from it. Not yet. If you enjoyed this video, comment 1 to let me know, if not, comment 2. Your thought mattered to me either way. The wind swept through the garage lot as Rosalie stepped outside, her coat clutched tightly around her. The December sky had shifted since she arrived, brighter but colder. Still, she didn't feel ready to leave. Sam followed behind her, wiping his hands with a towel. He'd spent 10 minutes under the hood of her car and found, just as she suspected, nothing urgent. "A belt's wearing thin," he said. "Not dangerous yet, but worth replacing soon." She nodded. "Send me the invoice." "No." She looked at him, amused. "You fix cars for a living, don't you?" "I do. But I don't charge people for excuses." "Excuses?" He shrugged. "You didn't need a mechanic today." There was no judgment in his tone, just honesty, quiet and steady. Rosalie leaned against her car door and looked at him. Really looked. The way the sunlight caught the flecks of gray at his temples. The way his posture stayed guarded, but his eyes, those deep, tired eyes, watched her like he was waiting for her to break, and didn't know whether to catch her or run. "I didn't know where else to go," she said, her voice low. He stepped back slightly, not coldly, but carefully. "What are you running from?" She didn't answer right away. Behind them, the door creaked open. Joanne stepped out, holding Millie's backpack and a half-eaten banana. "Oh," she stopped short. "Didn't realize you had company." Rosalie straightened. "Hi." I know who you are." Joanne nodded politely, but without warmth. "Millie talks about you." "Cake lady." Rosalie smiled gently. "That's sweet." Joanne handed the backpack to Sam, then gave him a look. "I was just dropping her off. Thought I'd save you the trip." "Thanks," Sam said, keeping his tone even. Joanne turned back to Rosalie. "Do you have kids?" Rosalie paused. "No." "Right." Joanne smiled tightly. "Well, nice seeing you. Drive safe." As she walked back to her car, Rosalie watched her go. "She doesn't like me." Sam gave a half-smile. "She's protective, thinks the world's done enough damage to this family." Rosalie nodded slowly. "She's not wrong." There was a long silence between them. A soft gust of wind stirred the leaves along the sidewalk. "I used to imagine it," Rosalie said suddenly. Sam looked at her. "Being a mom," she continued. "The way Millie looks at you like you're the center of the universe. I used to think I'd have that one day." His voice was quiet. "What happened?" She looked away. "Life, choices, biology, pressure, you name it. He said nothing, but she could feel him listening. Rosalie sighed. I was supposed to marry someone once. It was all lined up. Wealth meets wealth, families merge, legacies secure. But he didn't want me, not really. He wanted what I represented. And you? I just wanted a life that felt like mine. Sam nodded slowly. Didn't think someone like you could be lonely. Rosalie let out a bitter laugh. You'd be amazed how quiet everything is in a house that big. He stepped a little closer, his voice softer now. Well, I don't live in a big house. I live in a fixer-upper with bad insulation and a sink that leaks no matter how many times I patch it. But it's full of noise, sometimes too much. Rosalie smiled at that. Sounds nice. It's real. Their eyes met, and in that quiet space, something hung between them, a pause, a possibility. Then the moment broke. Millie's voice rang from behind the door. Daddy, where are you? Sam turned, calling out. Out front, baby girl. The door swung open. Millie burst out, coat half zipped, carrying a folded piece of paper in both hands. She stopped short when she saw Rosalie. Oh, hi, sweet girl, Rosalie said warmly. Millie ran over and held up the drawing. Look, it's you, and me, and Daddy, and the cake. Rosalie knelt to take the picture. Crayon lines showed 3 smiling stick figures standing next to a tall pink triangle, clearly the bakery cake. Her eyes burned unexpectedly. Can I keep this? She asked. Millie nodded enthusiastically. It's yours. You're in our family picture. Sam cleared his throat. Rosalie stood slowly, folding the drawing carefully. Thank you, Millie. I'll keep it safe. The girl ran back toward the door, humming. Rosalie looked at Sam. She's something special. She's everything, he said quietly. They stood there again, wrapped in silence. But this one was heavier. I should go, Rosalie said finally. Probably. She hesitated. I'm not sure when I'll see you again. Sam studied her. That up to you or me? Her lips parted slightly. Maybe both. She opened her car door but turned back before getting in. If I come by again, it won't be about the car, I figured. Would that be okay? He didn't smile. He didn't flinch. He just said, yeah, that'd be okay. As she pulled out of the lot, Rosalie glanced in the mirror. Sam was still standing there, hands in his pockets, watching her go. Not chasing, not retreating. Just waiting. That night she placed Millie's drawing on her nightstand next to a crystal lamp and a framed photo of a fundraiser she no longer remembered attending. And for the first time in a very long time, she fell asleep with the light still on a child's picture by her side and a name repeating softly in her thoughts. Sam Keller. A week passed, maybe more. Rosalie lost track somewhere between foundation meetings, silent dinners, and nights she spent staring at Millie's drawing on her nightstand, like it held some secret answer she couldn't quite see. She didn't go back to the garage. She told herself it was smart. That space was important. That maybe Sam wouldn't want her hovering in his world like some stranger who couldn't tell a socket wrench from a screwdriver. But that drawing, that look on his face when he said, that'd be okay. It echoed in her thoughts when she wasn't looking for it. Late one Saturday morning, as a soft rain misted over Asheville, Rosalie stood outside a local bookstore near the corner of Church Street, umbrella, forgotten in her hand, staring through the glass. Inside a chalkboard easel read, Story Time, with Miss Ruth Kids Welcome, cocoa free with any book. And through the window, she saw them, Sam and Millie, sitting cross-legged on a colorful rug, surrounded by 6 kids. Millie leaned against him, a little blanket tucked over her knees. Sam held a cocoa in one hand, and with the other he gently tucked a curl behind Millie's ear. Rosalie felt her heart catch. Before she could second-guess it, she pushed open the door. A tiny bell chimed. Sam turned. For a split second, his expression froze, then softened. Not quite a smile, but close. Millie lit up. "Cake lady." Every head turned. Rosalie laughed quietly. "That nickname's going to stick, isn't it, forever?" Sam said, rising to his feet. Millie tugged her hand. "Come sit with us. The book is about a bear who builds a house from marshmallows." Rosalie knelt. "That sounds messy." Millie grinned. "That's why it's fun." Sam handed her a cocoa from the table. "Still hot. Might help?" Rosalie took it. Their fingers brushed for a moment, small, accidental. But she felt it. She was sure he did too. They sat through the rest of story time, Rosalie cross-legged next to Millie Coco, warming her hands, her shoulder barely grazing Sam's. After the story, Miss Ruth handed out coloring pages. Millie plopped down at a nearby table, tongue poking out in concentration. Sam leaned closer to Rosalie. "Didn't expect to see you here." "I didn't plan on it," she said. "But I'm glad I came. You doing okay?" She hesitated. "Depends how you define okay." He gave her a sideways look, waiting. She set down the cup, voice quieter now. "Everything I'm doing feels curated, measured, like I've been living on autopilot. You ever feel like that?" Sam leaned back in his chair. "Since the day Ellie died." Rosalie's breath caught. "Your wife?" He nodded. "Millie was barely 6 months. One moment she was tired, the next she was gone. A heart condition we didn't know about." "I'm so sorry," she whispered. He didn't flinch, but his jaw tightened. "I spent the first year waking up 3 times a night just to make sure Millie was breathing. I didn't sleep, didn't eat. I was afraid to love her too much." Rosalie blinked, her throat tightening. "But you did." "I had to." His voice cracked. "She's all I've got." Rosalie looked at Millie, still scribbling with crayons, oblivious to the depth in her father's voice. "You're a good dad," she said. Sam gave a hollow laugh. "I'm trying to be." There was a pause. Something heavy but safe in the air between them. "You know," Rosalie said carefully for someone who's been through hell, "you still let her believe in magic." He looked down at his hands. "She deserves magic." Rosalie swallowed. "Maybe you do too." He glanced at her, then really looked. It wasn't flirty. It wasn't dramatic. It was raw and honest and left nothing to hide behind. "I wouldn't even know where to start," he said. She offered a small smile. "How about lunch?" He blinked. "What?" "There's a cafe next door. They have grilled cheese and tomato soup. I've heard it's decent. You want to take us to lunch? Is that so strange?" He tilted his head. "You've probably eaten at places where lunch costs more than my monthly rent. And I'm telling you, I'm craving grilled cheese." He hesitated, then smiled just slightly. "You're persistent. I'm curious. That's worse." She laughed. Millie looked up. "Can we go, Daddy? Can she come too?" Sam looked between them, then finally nodded. "All right, let's go." The cafe was small and bright, with fogged windows and the smell of garlic butter in the air. They sat at a corner table, Millie between them, chatting about marshmallow bears and crayon colors. The waitress didn't recognize Rosalie, and for once that felt like a gift. The food came. They ate. They laughed. At one point, Rosalie reached for her glass and knocked over her water. Oh, Sam moved to help, grabbing napkins, drying the table. "I'm a disaster," she muttered, flustered. Sam shook his head. "You're human. Welcome to the club." She looked at him, a little stunned by the gentleness in his voice. "I like this," Millie said suddenly. "It feels like a picnic." Sam smiled. "It kinda does." Rosalie reached for her napkin, then paused. "You know, I haven't had a meal like this in years." "What, grilled cheese?" No. She looked around the table. A meal that felt like home. He didn't speak right away, but he didn't have to, because something was unfolding between them, slow and fragile but undeniable. And in that warm little cafe with soup on the table and crayon drawings in Millie's hands, Rosalie Bennett realized something she hadn't dared believe. She wasn't just visiting this life. She wanted to be part of it. It was the kind of Sunday that held a softness in the air, low clouds drifting, no rush to be anywhere, and time stretching out just enough to feel like a gift. Rosalie stood at the edge of Sam's backyard coffee cup, warming her hands, eyes fixed on the rickety swing Millie was twisting in tight circles. The ropes creaked slightly as she spun, giggling to herself, hair whipping across her face. Behind her, the screen door creaked, followed by footsteps on the worn wooden porch. "She loves that thing," Sam said, stepping beside her, "even though I've threatened to replace it every spring." Rosalie glanced up at him. "Don't. It's perfect." He smirked. "You say that because you don't hear it screech like an old door at midnight." She smiled, but then her gaze dropped back to Millie. "She's so light." He looked at her, confused. Rosalie's voice dropped. Like joy just lives in her, like she hasn't learned how to carry the weight yet. Sam said nothing, but the quiet between them grew heavy. "She will, though," Rosalie added more to herself. "Life always finds a way to change that." Sam leaned on the railing. "Maybe. But maybe if she's lucky, she'll hold on to it longer than we did." Rosalie turned her cup in her hands, then glanced back inside through the open door. The kitchen was warm. Joanne had insisted on cooking brunch, filling the house with the smell of maple syrup and cinnamon. Rosalie had offered to help. Joanne had handed her a dish towel, like it was a test, and then spent the next half hour eyeing her over the edge of the frying pan. "Your sister's protective," Rosalie said. Sam gave a quiet laugh. "That's the nice version. She thinks I'm not good for you." Sam didn't answer right away. "She thinks I live in a world that doesn't mix with yours. And she's not wrong." Rosalie looked at him. "Do you think that I don't know?" That stung more than she expected. "I'm not just my last name, Sam." He looked at her, then serious. "No, you're not. But your last name comes with things I don't understand. And I've seen what those things can do." She folded her arms across her chest. "You're afraid of what this could be. I'm afraid of what it could cost." He walked down the steps into the yard, calling out to Millie. "Hey, kiddo, you dizzy yet?" Millie stopped spinning, wobbling as the swing unraveled. "A little good, time to eat." As she ran inside, Rosalie lingered on the porch. She could feel it, something in him pulling back just slightly. A shift. Like the ground beneath her had tilted, and she hadn't realized it until the moment she stepped forward. Inside brunch was loud, messy, full of overlapping conversations and forks scraping against plates. Joanne told stories that made Millie laugh so hard she snorted orange juice, and Sam looked so comfortable in his own skin it made Rosalie ache. She didn't belong here. She wanted to. But something had shifted, and now she couldn't tell if the door was still open. When they finished eating, Rosalie stood to clear plates, but Joanne waved her off. "I've got it," she said. "Go sit. Or walk. Or whatever rich people do when they're digesting." Rosalie caught the jab but didn't bite. "Thanks." She stepped out onto the porch again, drawing in a slow breath. The air had changed cooler, like rain was thinking about showing up. She wrapped her arms around herself and stared at the swing, still gently moving in the breeze. A moment later, Sam joined her. "Hey." She didn't look at him. "Do you ever feel like you're visiting your own life? Like everything you touch doesn't quite belong to you?" Sam leaned against the post beside her. Sometimes. Especially when people start treating you like a guest instead of a person. She turned to him. Is that what this is? You pulling back because you think I'm just visiting. He ran a hand through his hair, frustrated. Rosalie, whatever this is, it's complicated. It doesn't have to be. But it is, he said, his voice low. You come from a world where people get what they want, and I come from one where we patch things up and hope they hold another season. She stepped closer, voice trembling just enough. Do you think I don't know how to patch things? You think I've never been broken? Sam's jaw clenched. I'm not asking for a fairy tale, she whispered. I'm asking for a chance. He looked at her, then really looked, and his expression softened, like the tension in his chest had loosened just enough to let in a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. I'm scared, he said. So am I. I don't want to hurt Millie. You won't. She's never had someone walk in and stay. Rosalie blinked, tears building behind her eyes. Neither have I. They stood there for a long moment, the space between them shrinking, not with words, but with shared breath and the weight of unspoken things. Then Millie's voice called from inside. Daddy, you left syrup on the stove. Sam sighed, half smiling. Duty calls. He turned to go but paused at the door. I want to believe this could work, Rosalie's voice cracked. Then don't let fear decide. He looked at her, something shifting behind his eyes. I'll walk you out, he said. Back at her car, she paused before opening the door. Tell Millie I loved her drawing. Sam nodded. She'll probably make you another. Rosalie hesitated. Would that be okay? He nodded again, slower this time. Yeah, that'd be more than okay. She smiled, but it was bittersweet, because she knew what was happening. The door hadn't shut, but it hadn't swung wide open either, and right now all they had was a crack of light between them. Enough to see each other, not yet enough to reach. The invitation arrived on cream cardstock, tucked in a navy envelope, hand-delivered to Sam's garage by a young assistant in heels too high for the gravel lot. She'd handed it over like she was delivering a royal summons, then vanished back into her sleek sedan before Sam could ask questions. He stood by the open bay door, grease on his knuckles engine, still running behind him, staring at the thing like it might bite. Rosalie Bennett requests the pleasure of your company, a winter gala, hosted by the Bennett Foundation. Saturday evening. Black tie. He read it twice, then flipped it over. Nothing on the back. No note. No explanation. Just that formal invitation. Joanne spotted it on the kitchen counter that night beside the pile of unopened bills. What's this? She asked, picking it up, reading aloud. Wait, you're invited to this, apparently? She raised an eyebrow. Are you going? I don't own a black tie. Sam. He didn't answer. She watched him for a moment, then sat down across from him. She's trying, you know. She sent a formal invite like I'm a guest speaker. It's her world, Sam. Maybe that is her trying. He rubbed his face. I don't belong there. Joanne folded her arms. And yet she keeps showing up here. He went quiet. After a moment, she softened. Look, if you're scared, just say you're scared. He didn't look up. I'm not scared of her. You're scared of what she makes you feel. His silence answered that well enough. Saturday came fast. Too fast. Sam borrowed a suit from Deshawn, who grinned the entire time he helped him button the sleeves. Man, you clean up all right, he said. Don't forget to smile. Or, breathe. Sam grunted, tugging at the collar. Feels like I'm wearing someone else's skin. Deshawn laughed. That's love, bro. It's not love. Sure. Sam adjusted the cuffs again. It's complicated. Then it's definitely love. He drove himself. No town car, no valet. Just his old Ford, polished as best he could, parked a block away from the hotel, like it had something to be embarrassed about. The hotel gleamed marble floors, gold railings, glittering chandeliers. He'd never been inside. He stepped through the doors and paused. The noise hit first laughter champagne glasses, clinking the murmur of polished conversations. People in gowns and tuxedos moved like they belonged, like the world had always said yes to them. He took a breath and moved toward the ballroom. And then, like she'd been waiting for him the whole time, Rosalie appeared. Her dress was a deep navy, sleek and simple, with a shimmer that caught the light when she moved. Her hair was pinned back in soft waves, and when she saw him, her eyes lit up, not wide or surprised. Just relieved. "You came," she said. He looked around. "Kind of hard to sneak in dressed like this." She smiled. "You look good. I feel like a fraud." "You're not." A server passed with champagne. Sam took a glass, mostly to have something to hold. Rosalie touched his elbow, guiding him toward the edge of the room. "I didn't invite you here to parade you around," she said quietly. "I just wanted you here. With me." He studied her. "You know this doesn't feel like my world." "I know. It doesn't always feel like mine either." They stood in a small quiet between conversations, the air between them warm, despite the cool tones of the ballroom. "Why tonight?" he asked. She looked up at him. "Because this part of my life, the foundation, the press, the perfect posture, I've mastered it. But you, Sam, you're the first thing I haven't been able to plan, and I don't want to keep pretending you don't matter." He blinked. "I didn't realize I mattered." "You do." A beat passed. Then gently he asked, "Do you want this?" Rosalie hesitated. "It scares me. That's not what I asked." She looked at him, eyes steady. "Yes, I want this." Sam's breath caught. He glanced down, then back at her. "Then stop leading with the version of you that needs to impress everyone." She smiled faintly. "And you stop hiding behind what you think you're not." Before he could answer, a voice interrupted. "Rosalie, darling, there you are." They both turned. An older woman approached, wrapped in pearls and designer perfume. Her smile didn't quite reach her eyes. Mother Rosalie said, her voice shifting slightly. "Don't you look lovely?" Her gaze flicked to Sam. "And this must be Sam Keller," Rosalie said firmly. "A friend." Her mother offered a polite smile, cool and unreadable. "How nice. It's always refreshing to see you engaging with the community." Sam held her gaze. "I'm not a community project." Rosalie stepped closer to him, her hand brushing his. Her mother's smile tightened. "Of course not. Excuse me." She swept away before they could respond. Sam let out a slow breath. "She doesn't like me. She doesn't know you. She doesn't want to." Rosalie turned to him. "I don't care." He studied her. "Yes, you do." She looked down. "Okay. Maybe I used to, but not tonight." Music swelled. The dance floor filled. Rosalie reached for his hand. "Dance with me." He stared at her, half smiling. "I don't dance. You don't have to be good. Just don't let go." So he didn't. They moved slow, almost swaying, surrounded by people who pretended not to stare. But Sam didn't care. And Rosalie, she was already somewhere else. With him. "I never expected you," she whispered. He leaned in. "Maybe you were never looking in the right places." She smiled against his shoulder. And for the first time in years, Rosalie Bennett wasn't hosting a gala. She was just dancing. The snow came 2 days later, soft, quiet, the kind of snow that made the world look gentler than it really was. It blanketed Asheville overnight, turning the streets into a hush of white and slowing everything down to a crawl. Schools closed, businesses opened late. Sam let the garage stay dark for once, left the closed due to snow sign hanging on the door, and pulled another blanket over Millie. She curled up next to him on the couch, legs tangled beneath a quilt, eyes glued to a cartoon playing low on the old TV. Outside, wind brushed against the windows, and the heater rattled faintly with effort. Sam should have felt calm. Instead, his thoughts were stuck looping back to the gala, to Rosalie's hand in his, the way her voice softened when she said, "I want this." And then to her mother's eyes, calculating, polite, and miles colder than the ballroom's air conditioning. He hadn't heard from Rosalie since that night. No text, no call, no note tucked into an envelope like the first time. And that silence, it gnawed at him more than he wanted to admit. Millie glanced up at him. "Daddy, yeah. Can we build a snowman later?" He smiled faintly, brushing her hair back. "Of course. Can I give it a pink scarf?" "You can give it 3 if you want." She nodded, satisfied, then turned back to the TV. Sam's phone buzzed. He checked it instinctively. Not Rosalie, just Joanne. "Weather's getting rough. You and Millie good?" He texted back. "We're good. She wants a pink scarf snowman." Joanne replied with a heart emoji. Then another message followed. "You thinking about her?" He didn't respond. He didn't have to. Meanwhile, across town, Rosalie stood at her kitchen window, watching the snow fall over her manicured courtyard. It was perfectly picturesque. A postcard view. A life too polished. She hadn't slept well. The night of the gala had cracked something open in her, something she didn't know how to close. Dancing with Sam had felt easy, like warmth, after years of cold. But her mother's voice, the way she said engaging with the community, it echoed long after the music stopped. Rosalie had always been told where her place was, told how to move, speak, smile. And the moment she stepped outside those lines even a little, her world tilted. She wasn't scared of Sam. She was scared of what wanting him might cost. Hannah entered the room, mug in hand. That foundation board meeting just got pushed to Thursday. Snow delays. Rosalie nodded, barely hearing. "You okay?" Hannah asked, studying her. "I don't know." Hannah leaned on the counter. "You disappeared after the gala. Everyone noticed, but no one asked. Except you, because I'm not part of the performance." Rosalie glanced over. "Do you think I made a mistake? In what way, letting Sam in?" Hannah sipped her coffee. "Did it feel like a mistake?" "No." "Then no." Rosalie looked back toward the snow. "But it doesn't fit. None of it fits. He's a single dad who fixes cars and does bedtime stories. I'm the daughter of a family who sees charity as strategy. They'll never accept him." "So what?" Hannah said gently. "Do you accept him?" "Yes. Then they'll just have to catch up." Rosalie exhaled, frustrated. "It's not that easy." "I know. But maybe it's that simple." That afternoon, Rosalie drove. No reason, no destination, just the quiet of snow-covered streets and the ache of being still too long. She ended up on the east side of town, the house's humbler sidewalks, uneven kids out in boots that didn't match. The kind of neighborhood her mother would never set foot in. Sam's street hadn't been plowed yet. Her tires crunched through the snow until she reached the familiar house, the one with peeling trim and the hand-painted mailbox that read, "Keller," in faded green letters. She parked. The swing in the backyard was still, the porch empty. She didn't know what she was doing until her hand was already on the gate. Inside, Sam stood by the window, Millie on his hip, both of them watching snowflakes settle on the railing. He saw the car first. Then her. He didn't move right away. Millie gasped. "It's the cake lady." Sam set her down gently. "Stay here, okay?" He met Rosalie on the porch, coat-zipped scarf still hanging loose around his neck. His eyes searched hers. Not cold, but cautious. "I wasn't sure I should come," she said. "You did." She nodded, snow catching in her hair. Everything okay? He asked. No, she said. But I'm here anyway. They stood there in the quiet, the wind soft around them. I needed to see you, she said, to see if it still felt like something real when I was standing in front of you. He studied her. And it does. He didn't answer. Just took one slow step forward, closing the space between them. I've been scared, she admitted. Scared of not fitting into your life. Or worse, changing it in ways that hurt. He shook his head. You already changed it. Rosalie's breath caught. You made Millie smile like someone lit her up from the inside, he continued. You made me remember what it felt like to want something again. She blinked, tears brimming. I'm not asking you to give up anything, she said. I'm not asking you to be anyone else. They both stood there, holding the weight of what might come next, not rushing it, just breathing in the possibility. From inside, Millie called out, Is she staying? Sam looked at Rosalie. Her eyes softened. If that's okay? He gave the smallest nod. Yeah, that'd be okay. She stepped forward. He opened the door, and just like that, the quiet house warmed with something new, something fragile. Yes, but full of hope. The kind of hope that didn't need permission. Just a reason to stay. It was the kind of afternoon that made you forget winter was still waiting outside. The scent of cinnamon lingered from the muffins Joanne baked earlier, curling through the hallways like a gentle memory. Rosalie sat on the living room floor with Millie helping her piece together a puzzle of cartoon animals, while Sam barefoot and comfortable folded laundry nearby. It didn't feel like visiting anymore. It felt like something quieter. Deeper. Home. Do pandas eat apples? Millie asked, pressing a puzzle piece down with both hands. Not usually, Rosalie said, squinting at the cartoon panda holding a red fruit. But I think this one makes exceptions. Millie giggled, her laugh warm and full. Sam looked over from the couch. She's trying to trick you into telling her every animal likes apples, so she can convince me to let her feed them to the neighbor's dog. Max does like apples? Millie chimed in quickly. He also eats your crayons if you leave them outside, Sam replied. Rosalie watched them heart full in a way she hadn't let herself imagine for years. She reached for another puzzle piece, but hesitated when her phone buzzed on the end table. The screen lit up. Mother 3 missed calls. New voicemail. Sam caught the flicker of tension across her face. You okay? She didn't answer right away, just picked up the phone, turned it over in her hand, then set it back down without opening the message. I will be, she said softly. He didn't push. A little later, as Millie colored in the corner with markers that had long lost their caps, Sam walked into the kitchen where Rosalie stood rinsing mugs. She's calling again? He asked. Rosalie nodded, not turning around. Wants to have dinner. Says she wants to understand. Do you believe her? Rosalie dried her hands on a dish towel, then finally met his eyes. No. I think she wants to redirect. He stepped closer. You don't have to go. I know. But you're thinking about it. She nodded. Sam leaned against the counter. You don't owe her anything. She's my mother. He sighed. Blood doesn't mean she gets to rewrite your life. Rosalie looked down, voice barely above a whisper. But sometimes it feels like I'm rewriting hers just by living mine differently. That sat heavy between them. You're allowed to want something new, he said. She looked at him. Am I? He took her hand. You're doing it. Later that night, as snow began to fall again in lazy flakes, Rosalie stood outside on the porch. The sky was dark but peaceful, the porch light catching the flurries like little sparks. She hadn't meant to stay this long. Just a visit, she'd told herself. But now, every goodbye felt harder to say. The door creaked behind her. Joanne stepped out, arms crossed over her thick sweater. "Didn't peg you for the stargazing type," she said. "I'm not," Rosalie replied softly. "But it's quiet out here. Easier to think." Joanne leaned against the railing beside her. For a moment she said nothing. Then, "He's different when you're around." Rosalie turned unsure if that was a compliment. Joanne went on. "Lighter, like he's remembering he's still allowed to want things." Rosalie's voice caught. "I'm trying not to mess that up." Joanne gave a half laugh. "You're doing all right?" "So far." They stood there a while, watching their breath cloud in the cold. "He loves her more than anything," Joanne said, nodding toward the house. "I know. And he's been burned before. Not just by life, but by people who meant well, but didn't stay." Rosalie swallowed. "I'm not going anywhere." Joanne looked at her long and hard. "Good. Just don't make promises you can't keep." Inside, Sam was tucking Millie in. She clutched a stuffed rabbit and blinked up at him sleepily. "Daddy, yeah, is Rosalie going to be here tomorrow too?" He hesitated, then brushed hair from her forehead. "We'll see, sweetheart." Millie yawned. "I hope so." After she drifted off, Sam walked back into the kitchen. Rosalie was there, rinsing out her mug, moving quietly like she belonged. He stopped in the doorway. She turned and caught his expression. "What is it?" He rubbed the back of his neck. "I'm not used to this." "To what, coming home and not being alone in it?" She stepped toward him, cautious. "Do you want me to go?" "No," he said quickly. "I want you to stay. I don't want to ruin it." She smiled softly. "You won't." He exhaled. "Dinner with your mom," he said. She nodded. "You gonna go? I think I have to." He nodded slowly. "Do you want me to come?" Rosalie's eyes softened. "You'd do that if it means she sees the life you're building now." "Yeah." She stepped into his arms, rested her head against his chest. "That means everything." And as the snow fell heavier outside, inside the little house on the edge of town, something strong and real took root. Not flashy, not loud, just steady. Growing. The restaurant was too quiet. Polished silverware, tablecloths like snowdrifts. Everyone spoke in hushed tones, as if even laughter had to be softened to be appropriate. Sam had never been somewhere that made him feel so obvious, like his voice might scrape the paint off the walls. He tugged at his collar again. Rosalie reached under the table and gently touched his knee. "You're doing fine," she whispered. He gave her a quick glance. "I haven't touched the wrong fork yet. Give it time." She smiled, but even that was careful tonight. Measured. There was something in her posture that made him feel like she was holding herself together too tightly, as if one wrong breath might unravel her. Then came the voice. "Rosalie." Her mother appeared at the edge of the table, all elegance and intention. She wore cream perfectly tailored, and not a single hair out of place. Her pearls caught the light as she leaned in to kiss her daughter's cheek, with just enough distance not to smudge her lipstick. "You look lovely," her mother said. Rosalie nodded. "You too." Then the eyes turned. "And you must be Mr. Keller." Sam stood offering his hand. "Sam." She shook it brief dry, like touching something you didn't plan to hold. "Well," she said, settling into her seat. "This should be interesting." Rosalie inhaled slowly. Sam felt it more than heard it. The waiter arrived to pour water. No one spoke. Finally, her mother cleared her throat. "So, tell me, Sam, what is it you do again?" "I run a garage," he said, "mostly repair work. Some engine rebuilds when I can find the time." "Interesting," she replied. "A hands-on profession. You don't see many of those anymore. Everything's gone digital. Engines haven't. True. And you have a daughter. Yes, Millie. She's 5. A child changes everything she said with a cool smile, especially when one isn't married. Rosalie stiffened. Mother, I'm just observing, she said, sipping her water. It's quite a commitment raising a child alone. I imagine it leaves little room for complications. Sam held her gaze. Millie's not a complication. She's the reason I get up every morning. Her mother tilted her head, as if trying to decide if that was admirable or naive. Rosalie leaned in. We didn't come here for a cross-examination. I'm simply trying to understand what you see in this arrangement. Rosalie exhaled, her jaw tight. It's not an arrangement. Then what is it? A choice, she said. One I'm making with my whole heart. Her mother's expression didn't flinch, but her voice softened. You've always had a bleeding heart, Rosie. Sam felt the air tighten between them. I was hoping you'd outgrow it. Rosalie stared at her mother. You mean grow into you? There it was, the line they'd danced around since the beginning. Her mother blinked, then smiled politely. You've built something very specific for yourself, dear, and now you're inviting someone in who doesn't speak the language. That's not judgment, it's reality. Sam leaned forward slightly. Maybe your language is the one that needs translating. Her mother looked at him, eyebrows raised. He didn't flinch. She doesn't need a mirror, he said. She needs someone who listens when she's not speaking. Someone who knows the difference between what looks right and what feels right. Rosalie's eyes glistened just slightly. Her mother leaned back, crossing her arms. Rosalie, you know how this ends, she said. The media will spin it. The board will ask questions. People will wonder what's changed. You've worked too hard to let sentiment steer the wheel. I'm not steering with sentiment, Rosalie replied. I'm steering with purpose. Her voice didn't waver. Sam reached for her hand under the table. Her mother saw it. Her jaw tightened. But she didn't speak again. Dinner came. No one ate much. When the check arrived, her mother covered it before anyone else moved. Rosalie stood first. Thank you for meeting us. I wish you'd think this through, her mother said quietly. I already have. They stepped outside. The cold air was bracing but oddly freeing. Rosalie exhaled like she'd been holding something in for years. Sam tucked his hands in his coat pockets. Well, that was fun. She laughed, shaking her head. That was restrained. He glanced at her. You okay? She looked at him. I am, because for once, I didn't shrink to fit the room. They walked slowly, letting the night settle around them. The sidewalks were still damp from melting snow. A car passed headlights, sweeping across the pavement. She's not going to come around, is she? Sam asked. No, Rosalie said, but I'm not waiting for her to. He stopped, looked at her. Then what are you waiting for? She turned the city lights, casting a soft glow over her face. Nothing, she said. Not anymore. And there, under the dim light of a street lamp, with the weight of her mother's expectations falling away behind her, Rosalie stepped into him. Not with a performance, not with hesitation, but with a truth she was finally ready to claim. She kissed him. Soft, sure, certain. When they pulled apart, she rested her forehead against his. I don't care how messy it gets, she whispered. I just want something real. He smiled, breath visible in the cold. Then you've got it. Snow melted into slush overnight, leaving the sidewalks slick and the sky a dull gray that hovered over Asheville like it was holding its breath. Rosalie stood at the edge of the garage's office, hands shoved into her coat pockets, eyes following the lines of Sam's back as he worked under the hood of a battered Subaru. He hadn't noticed her yet. There was something grounding about him in that moment, grease on his hands, focus in his shoulders, the kind of quiet attention that didn't ask for applause. Just presence. She stepped inside. The bell above the door jingled. Sam looked up, surprised. "You're early. Figured I'd bring lunch. Joanne gave me the good thermos." He wiped his hands on a towel, walked over with a tired smile. "You're a sight for sore eyes." She handed him the thermos. "It's that tomato soup you like. And you say you're not trying to win me over." She smirked. "I already did. This is maintenance." He laughed low and real and kissed her forehead, but then the mood shifted. Slightly. Subtle. Sam glanced back at the car. "They're raising the rent again." Rosalie blinked. "At the shop, yeah. Another 150. That's the third bump this year. If it keeps up, I'll have to move the whole place." Rosalie stepped closer. "Where would you go? I don't know yet. There aren't many affordable options in this area." She hesitated. "Would you let me help?" He looked at her quickly, jaw tight. "No. Sam, I mean it." Her voice softened. "I'm not offering out of pity. I know. But that doesn't change what it would feel like." She folded her arms. "You'd rather struggle than accept support. I'd rather stand on my own feet than feel like I'm being carried through your world." Rosalie took a breath, held it, then let it go slowly. "This isn't about money, Sam. It always ends up being about money, Rosalie." The words landed heavier than either of them expected. She looked down. "Maybe that's true. But I didn't come here to solve your problems. I came here because I want to build something with you. That doesn't mean I expect you to lose yourself in it." He leaned against the workbench, silent. Finally, he said, "You know what scares me most?" She waited. "That you'll wake up one day and realize none of this place merely fits the life you're meant for. That you'll leave. And I'll have to explain to my daughter why good things don't stay." Rosalie's throat tightened. "Do you really think I'm capable of that? I think people change when they get tired of fighting for what doesn't fit." She stepped closer. "Then let's stop making this a fight." Their eyes met. Then the office phone rang. Sam sighed, pushed off the bench, and answered. "Sam's auto. This is Sam." Rosalie stepped aside, giving him space, but the moment stretched. Sam's brows furrowed. He turned slightly, face stiffening. "Yeah," he said. "She's here. 1 second." He held out the receiver. "It's for you." Rosalie blinked. "Here it's Hannah." She took the phone, slowly. "Hannah." Her friend's voice was tight. "I didn't want to call, but your mother's pulling the board. What she called an emergency meeting. She's pushing a vote to remove you from the foundation's leadership. Says you're emotionally compromised." Rosalie's chest hollowed. "Are you serious? She's blaming Sam?" "Says the press is circling. Claims the foundation's image is at risk because of your association." Rosalie pressed her fingers to her temple. "When's the meeting tomorrow?" "Noon. I'll be there." She hung up before the anger fully bloomed. Sam watched her carefully. "What happened?" "My mother is trying to oust me from my own foundation." His eyes widened. "Because of me. Because I'm not the version of myself she can control." Sam ran a hand through his hair. "I shouldn't have come to that dinner. This is my fault." "No," Rosalie said, voice firm. "This is her fault, for thinking she can buy my silence with power." Silence stretched between them. It wasn't blame. It was realization. Rosalie walked to the door, paused with her hand on the frame. "I have to fight this, Sam." He nodded. "I know. I'm not backing down. I wouldn't love you if you did." She turned. Her voice wavered just a little. "You said you're scared I'll leave." "I am." She stepped close again, looked him in the eyes. Then listen to me now. I'm not leaving. Not unless you ask me to. He didn't answer right away, just pulled her into him, arms tight like he was holding on to something he'd spent years trying not to need. Outside, the gray sky finally broke open. Rain, not snow. Soft at first, then heavier. And inside the garage, among oil-stained rags and shelves of old tools, two people stood quietly, knowing tomorrow everything could shift. But today, they were still choosing each other. The room was too quiet. 12 board members sat in polished leather chairs, each one flipping through their copies of the Foundation's agenda, careful not to meet Rosalie's eyes. The meeting room on the top floor of the Bennett building had always felt cold, but today it felt colder than ever. Maybe it was the silence. Maybe it was the way her mother sat at the head of the table, composed, unreadable, already 2 steps ahead. Rosalie sat at the opposite end, back straight papers, in order, heart racing. She could hear it, her pulse loud and steady in her ears. But on the outside, she didn't blink. "Shall we begin?" her mother said, voice like glass. Hannah, seated beside Rosalie, gave her a small nod of support. "We're ready." "Good," her mother continued. "As many of you are aware, recent media inquiries have raised concerns about the direction and stability of this foundation. In light of these developments, and given Ms. Bennett's personal affiliations, which she has not disclosed adequately to the board, we must now consider whether she is still fit to serve as executive director." A few board members shifted in their seats. No one spoke. Rosalie stood. "If anyone has questions about my integrity or leadership, ask them now," she said. "Not through headlines, not behind closed doors." Her mother cut in, calm and pointed. "This isn't personal, Rosalie. You're calling a vote to remove your daughter from the organization she built," Rosalie replied. "I'd say that feels personal." Her mother's smile didn't falter. "It's about protecting our image." From what Rosalie asked. "From the fact that I'm in love with someone who doesn't come from money, who raises his daughter with more grace than half the families I've seen in our donors' circles." A flicker of discomfort passed across the table. "Good. I'm not ashamed of who I love," she said, voice rising. "But I am ashamed that this board is more concerned with optics than with impact. You sit here debating image while children wait months for the care our programs provide. That's not leadership. That's vanity." Hannah reached out, steadying Rosalie's hand under the table. Her mother tilted her head. "Rosalie, you're emotional. That's understandable." "I'm human," Rosalie replied, "and I'm tired of being told that makes me less qualified." She took a breath. "I stepped into this role because I believed in what this foundation could do. I believed it could grow past the shallow, performative charity we were known for. And it has. We've launched 4 new programs in underserved communities. We've doubled our outreach in the last 2 years. We've made real change." She looked around the table, eyes landing on each person. "If you want to vote me out for that, go ahead. But know this, I won't stop doing the work, whether my name's on this door or not." Silence followed, a long, heavy moment where no one moved. Then one of the older members, Mr. Donnelly, cleared his throat. "I remember when your father started this foundation," he said. "He believed it should grow with heart first." "You've honored that, Rosalie." Another member, a woman in her 70s with silver hair pinned, neatly knotted. "I don't think anyone questions your commitment. And frankly, your mother's proposal feels more like a reaction than a strategy." Rosalie's mother leaned forward. "So you're saying we do nothing?" "I'm saying," Mr. Donnelly replied, "that we don't burn down a house because the front porch looks different." A soft murmur of agreement followed. Rosalie's mother went still. She turned to Hannah. "Well," Hannah stood. "I vote to keep Rosalie as executive director. and to focus our next meeting on the actual expansion proposal we're supposed to be reviewing. One by one, the votes followed. 10-2. Rosalie stayed seated, holding her breath until the last vote came in. When it was done, she looked at her mother. "You brought this to a vote, and you lost." Her mother's face didn't twitch. "So it seems." Rosalie stood. "I'll be in my office." She walked out of the room without looking back. Once outside, once the doors were closed, she leaned against the hallway wall and let herself breathe. Hannah joined her a moment later. "You didn't just survive that," Hannah said. "You owned it." Rosalie let out a half-laugh, breathless. "I think I might throw up. You earned it, all of it." Rosalie's phone buzzed. She checked the screen and smiled. "Sam, I'm outside. If you need me, or if you don't, I'm just here." She texted back, "I'll be right down." When she stepped outside, the air was cool again, but fresh, like the sky had cleared just enough for the world to feel honest. Sam leaned against the truck, hands in his pockets. Millie was in the back seat, waving with a chocolate milk in hand. "Hey," he said. "Hey," she replied, walking up to him. He searched her face. "You okay? I'm still standing," he smiled. "Told you. You're tougher than you think." She wrapped her arms around him, holding on longer than usual. Then whispered, "They tried to take everything, and I didn't let them." He kissed the top of her head. "Because you know who you are." She pulled back just enough to meet his eyes. "And I know who I want beside me." He nodded. "I'm not going anywhere." Behind them, Millie rolled down the window. "Can we get pancakes now?" Rosalie laughed, wiping her eyes. "Yes, sweetheart, we can get pancakes." Sam opened the door for her, and together they climbed into the truck, not a perfect family, maybe not by the world's standards, but real, and finally stronger than the stories told about them. The morning sun filtered through the blinds in streaks soft gold light, stretching across Sam's worn kitchen table. The smell of pancakes lingered, mingled with fresh coffee and something that felt like peace. Millie was at the counter, focused on a coloring book, her tongue slightly out as she concentrated. Sam was wiping down the stove, humming low under his breath. Rosalie stood by the window, still in her slippers, arms wrapped around her cup. Her hair was loose, her sweater slightly off one shoulder. She looked like someone who'd finally exhaled after holding it in too long. "You're humming," she said. Sam turned. "That a crime?" "No," she smiled. "It's just new." He wiped his hands on a towel and walked over to her. "Feels like the first morning in a long time that doesn't have something waiting to crash down." She nodded. The board's quiet. No more calls, no more meetings, for now at least. He studied her. "You're still waiting for the other shoe, aren't you? I think I've just spent so long living on edge I don't know how to not brace for impact." Sam leaned in, kissed her forehead. "Then maybe we learn how to breathe again. One morning at a time." Rosalie closed her eyes. "That sounds a lot like hope." "It is." There was a knock at the door. Light, hesitant. Rosalie and Sam exchanged a glance. Millie didn't look up. He went to answer it, swinging the door open gently. A woman stood on the porch. Late 50s, sharp coat, hair pulled back tight. The resemblance was unmistakable. Rosalie's breath caught. Mom Sam stepped aside instinctively. Her mother stepped in, careful not to track snow from her boots. "I won't stay," she said quickly, eyes flicking around the modest home. "I just wanted to speak to you. Alone." Rosalie hesitated, then turned to Sam. "Can you take Millie out back for a bit?" He nodded, eyes scanning her face. "You okay?" "I will be." He touched her arm briefly, then called out to Millie, who jumped up eagerly. "Can I bring my markers? Bring the whole bucket, sweetheart," Sam said. The back door shut with a soft click. Rosalie faced her mother. You have 2 minutes. Her mother's eyes softened. You were never small, Rosalie. Even as a child, you were always trying to make more space than people gave you. Then why did you spend half my life trying to shrink me silence? Her mother sighed. Because I was afraid that the world would hurt you, that you'd be too much in the wrong places and not enough in the right ones. I thought, if I shaped you just so maybe you'd be safe. Rosalie blinked, caught off guard by the honesty. I failed at that, her mother continued. But I never stopped loving you. You tried to erase me. No, she said quietly. I tried to protect the version of you I understood. And I didn't understand this. Him. That little girl. This life. She looked around, but now, I think I see it. The way you looked when you came into that boardroom, the way you spoke, the way you didn't flinch. Rosalie folded her arms, cautious, and I realized I've been wrong. About a lot of things. Rosalie's eyes glistened. It took trying to destroy me to admit that I was scared, that you'd outgrow everything I gave you, that you wouldn't need me. Rosalie's voice cracked. I didn't want you to fix anything. I just wanted you to see me. Her mother nodded slow. I see you now. They stood in the quiet. Words ran out. Then her mother reached into her coat and handed Rosalie a small envelope. What is this, a donation? She said. Personal. Not through the board. I want to support the early literacy program you pitched last fall. The one the board tabled. Rosalie blinked. Why now? Because it's good work. Because it matters. And because, for the first time, I want to follow your lead. Rosalie took the envelope, stunned. Her fingers trembled slightly. Her mother exhaled. I'll go. I just wanted to say that. She moved toward the door, then turned back. You're stronger than I ever taught you to be. And that terrifies me, but I think it's the thing I'm most proud of. She left before Rosalie could find a reply. Sam returned a few minutes later, Millie skipping beside him with paint smudges on her cheeks. She okay? He asked quietly. Rosalie nodded, her voice distant. Yeah. She said she sees me now. Sam watched her closely. And do you believe her? Rosalie looked at the envelope still in her hands. I think maybe I finally don't need her to. He stepped closer. You sure about that? She met his eyes. I think I've spent most of my life trying to be enough for someone who didn't know how to show love. But now I'm building something where love isn't measured by silence or performance. It's just felt. Sam smiled, pulling her in. So what now? She leaned her head on his chest. Now we live. And outside the clouds, thinned sunlight breaking through just enough to paint the porch in warmth. Inside that little house, something healed. Not all at once, not completely, but enough. Enough to begin again. It was almost spring. The snow had started to retreat from the edges of the sidewalks, revealing patches of tired grass and forgotten leaves. A breeze drifted in through the cracked kitchen window as Rosalie stood barefoot at the sink, rinsing blueberries for the pancakes she'd promised Millie. The morning was quiet, peaceful, but full in a way that still surprised her. Behind her, Sam moved around the kitchen, pouring coffee-grabbing plates. They didn't talk much in the mornings anymore. They didn't need to. Mom Millie's voice echoed down the hallway. Rosalie smiled. The little girl had started calling her that a few weeks ago, softly, at first testing it out like a new shoe. Rosalie hadn't corrected her. She never would. In the kitchen, baby Rosalie called back. Millie appeared, bedhead wild blanket dragging behind her. She crawled up onto a stool, chin resting on the counter. I dreamed we lived in a treehouse, she said. Sam ruffled her hair. Sounds drafty. Nope. It had windows and a big soft rug. And you made pancakes. Rosalie grinned. Even in her dreams, you're the breakfast guy. Sam shrugged. I know my strengths. Millie leaned over the counter. Is Rosalie going to stay forever? The room went still. Sam looked at her careful. Rosalie dried her hands and walked over, crouching so she was eye level with Millie. What if I told you I wanted to? Millie's eyes lit up. Really, really? The girl launched herself into Rosalie's arms, blanket and all. Sam watched them quiet and full, then turned to flip the pancakes. Later that afternoon, the three of them drove out to the edge of town. Rosalie had asked Sam to take them to a place he loved somewhere that meant something to him. He chose the old field behind his father's barn. It was overgrown now, a mess of tangled grass and bare trees. But the view, wide hills rolling into the distance, scattered with late winter fog, was the kind of quiet that calmed the bones. They brought a blanket and sandwiches. Millie chased a stray cat through the tall grass. Sam leaned back on his elbows, watching Rosalie watch the sky. You know, she said, this could be our life. He raised an eyebrow. Chasing cats in fields? She smiled. I mean, this kind of slow, this kind of rooted. Sam studied her. You're still on the board? He said. You still run half the programs in town? You're building a whole center next year. You sure slows in your bones. Rosalie turned to him. That's what I've been thinking about. What it means to do all of that without losing this. He nodded slowly. You're not going to lose this, not if you're honest about what matters. She looked at him, the sun warming the side of her face. I want to build something, Sam. With you. With Millie. With this life. He reached for her hand. Then let's build it. Just then, Millie shrieked with laughter as the cat darted past her feet, disappearing into the trees. Careful, Sam called. I'm okay, she shouted, triumphant. Rosalie watched, her heart so full it ached. You know, she said, there was a time I thought I needed to be rescued. Sam glanced at her. I thought someone would show up with the answer. A check, a title, a way out. She looked down at their hands. But the truth is, no one saved me. I changed my life when I decided it wasn't working the way it was. Sam's thumb brushed her knuckles. I never wanted to save you, he said. I just wanted you to see you didn't have to do it all alone. She leaned her head on his shoulder. You didn't just stand beside me, she whispered. You made room for me. You gave me a place to be me, not a version of me, not someone else's daughter, just me. Sam turned his face into her hair. And I like her. A lot. The sky was starting to fade into pinks and golds. Millie ran back toward them, arms full of sticks and leaves like treasures. I made us a nest, she announced, dropping them proudly. Sam looked at Rosalie. Well, I guess we're birds now. I've been called worse, she teased. They sat there until the light shifted into dusk and the field turned quiet again. As they packed up, Rosalie paused, staring out at the hills. I think I'm ready. Sam slung the bag over his shoulder. For what? For all of it? The hard parts, the beautiful parts, the middle of the night wake up with the sick kid parts, the meetings, the chaos, the ordinary days. He smiled. That's the best part, you know. What is when life stops being about waiting for the big things and starts being about the real ones. They walked back toward the truck, Millie skipping ahead. And for the first time in a long time, Rosalie didn't feel like she was racing the world. She felt like she'd already arrived.